Hi, this is Bryce Van Patten with Metal Express Radio Backstage, and today I'm talking with Florian Zepf, guitarist and mastermind behind the Progressive Souls Collective. How are you doing today?
Oh, thanks so much. I'm great. How are you?
Oh, doing excellent, doing excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself as a musician and how you got the idea to create the Progressive Souls Collective?
Oh yeah, sure. So I'm based in Germany, and the idea for the Progressive Souls Collective actually emerged probably 3 years ago, and it all started off with a demo with like 3 songs, and I ended up showing them to a friend of mine, and he said, "Man, you should have like professional people involved and get this like really top notch." And at that particular time, I was actually watching the Dream Theater Drummer Search documentary. Like it came with one of their albums that came like a DVD, and so I watched that one. And it was actually my wife who said, this Brazilian drummer, Achilles Priester, he played absolutely fantastic, and I should contact him. And so that was like the spark off to get Achilles involved. And I made contact with Achilles. And right away, like after like 2 minutes of talking, we were talking about the music. So I had sent him some demos, and he really liked what he heard. And he was actually driving to a rehearsal with Wasp while we were talking about the music. Oh, wow. He was preparing for a tour with them, and so that was actually really fun. And he was like, "Yeah, man, cut me in right from the get go." And next person I contacted was Derek, and actually Achilles also suggested to get Derek involved for keyboards. And Derek was pretty much like same spiel. He got the demos and had some good suggestions what one could sort of do with a different sound that in particular songs, and we just took it from there. And it ended off, so it wasn't really planned at first as a full album. It was just like, okay, how can I sort of try to get these songs sound right, and then from that actually it sort of emerged, okay, why not make one more, 2 more. And it really also, Achilles was actually a big help because he lives in Los Angeles. He knows the musician community there really, really well. Achilles suggested to get Kevin Moore involved.
Oh, wow.
He knew Kevin Moore because Kevin played on an album that Achilles did with a guitarist called Gustavo Carmo, an absolutely brilliant instrumental prog metal album. And so made contact with Kevin. Kevin was up for it, and so we'd actually tried to keep the roles of Derek and Kevin sort of clearly identifiable, so that Derek was doing all the keyboards and Kevin was doing all the loops and samples, and it worked out great. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. What was it like working with Derek?
Oh, it's incredible to work with him. We started off collaborating online, but I actually ended up visiting him in his studio in Los Angeles, in Burbank. Awesome. And it's just so impressive when you work with musicians of that particular caliber, how fast they actually work, how fast they make the right decisions. So you really have to act together to be able to follow them. And but it's really fun. You learn so much. And these are really, really nice people, so they really help you to get the music right. And Derek is absolutely a master of the instrument, and he has a very interesting signal chain when he records his keyboards, pretty much like a guitar player, actually more. And that's something, as a guitar player, I can really relate to that. But it's super fun being with him in the studio. So many funny jokes, and but above all, man, he is very respectful with the material that you present to him. So he always asks you like, "Oh man, do you want it that way or that? Do you want a different nuance to that?" And so he treats the composition very respectfully, and always puts the song first. And it's eye-opening when you watch him record, or when you see him discuss with his engineer how he wants to tweak little things, and also how he self-edits. So how does he identify a particular section that was right, or how does he self-edit, and okay, that wasn't what I was intending to do, so just a little bit different. So I think the self-editing that Derek does is so effective, and it saves so much time.
That's awesome. So Kevin was doing loops, and how did he come into the picture, and was that a face-to-face, or were you guys exchanging things, and how did that work out?
So Kevin, as I said, Gustavo Carmo, a friend of Aquila's, who had been working with Kevin together on their album, he actually gave me Kevin's contact details, and so I made contact with Kevin. And most of the collaboration was online, like using Skype and phone. I actually ended up meeting Kevin late last year when the album was done, but we happened to be in the same city, and it was great. So we actually sort of rediscussed everything that we did when it was actually already done. So it was nice to meet in person, and he's
to finally really kind of sit down and have a chat with him about it.
Oh yeah, he's such a humble guy and so easy to work with. So like Derek, Kevin is so precise in what he does. So I sent him like a file, and he said, Florian, this is like 1/64th of a beat, not on the grid. You got to get that right. And I said, okay.
Oh, wow.
So now you know whom you're working with. And I knew, okay, you got to have your act together and be absolutely, on top of your game. But he's awesome to work with, such a lovely person, and very creative. So he, like Derek, he always asks, how do you want the song? How do you want this sort of sit in the mix also? What's your idea here? Or do you want me to just do my thing? And I actually ended up with pretty much everyone on the album. It was more like, okay, do your thing. What do you think fits best for the song or for the album? And yeah,
that's excellent, because you're letting them do their strengths, the reason you've got them involved. So that's great that came together. Can you tell us about how you got your singer for the project and a little bit about him?
Yeah, Vladimir Lalich. Vladimir, I discovered his work on the internet. I had heard about his band Organized Chaos before, but what really sort of when I was looking on the internet, on YouTube for different vocalists, I just stumbled over a video, just like 1 minute and about 10 seconds long, where he does a cover of Steve Vai's and Devin Townsend's collaboration of a song called Touching Tongues. And that's just like 1 minute and 10 seconds, but it just blew me away. And if you find that video on the internet, you hear absolutely why I want to work with Vladimir. He has such a great range, and he's powerful in every register that you really hear him. He
has a unique voice as well.
Absolutely. And it might be a divider for some people that, okay, yeah, they can identify it or they can, and that's fine. And I think that actually speaks for the character of a voice.
Absolutely.
But the good thing is really when you write vocal melodies, you don't have to really be particularly cautious, because regardless what range or register, Vladimir will be able to come up with something that's interesting. So I think
you don't have to change keys or worry about that. You can just kind of
that never happened. That never happened that we had to change any key or so. It was more that he sent me a couple takes, and then I could practically I could choose from like 5-6 awesome vocal takes and just decide what sits best in the mix. So he's very creative with his vocal work, and he sends you also something like a ton of backing vocals. So we really have like tons of backing vocals on that album. Vladimir and myself, I'm also a tiny bit of backing vocals, but Vladimir is the master of this, and yeah.
So you got tracks from a lot of people then coming into you, and you get to sort all that out with optional tracks and this take and that take. So I'm guessing that as it's your project, you were pretty much the producer on all of this?
Yeah, it was. So, and I actually didn't realize that until when the album was almost done, when we were actually putting the artwork together. Okay, you got to write somebody down who actually produced that, and but I hadn't really thought of getting somebody external involved for that, because I wanted to sort of, just do my thing and see how it sounds like. And the fact that we were able to convince a great label like Metalville Records is just awesome for us.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, and producing. I mean, I think it's about just keeping the things together and sort of steering the project from beginning to end, but of course allowing other people's influences. And I thought that the more I let go and just let people do their thing, the better performance you just get out of them. And as long as it's not overdoing it, and there was never a danger of actually overdoing it, I think so. So because these guys just know what they're doing,
right? And they get to put a little piece of themselves into it. So
yeah, that's why you have them. Yeah,
that's why they're there in the first place. So you talked about Derek and how he runs a rig and like a guitar player. So I wanted to ask, when I was looking you up, I also found a guitar company with your name. Can you tell me about your guitar rig?
My guitar, yeah. So
and what you play through?
Yeah, I'm playing an Ernie Ball Music Man. Actually, it's sitting right here. Just a second, because this one. I'm not sure. Can you see it? That's a John Petrucci Majesty model.
Absolutely.
Like an
It fades in and out, but we saw it.
Okay. Yeah. So on the album, it's basically a Majesty, an Ernie Ball Music Man Majesty, with Sommer cables, German cable company, and amp-wise, I'm using Mesa Boogie. And on that album, you largely hear a Mark V. With various settings in 2C plus mode, but also, and actually the amp was mic'd with Royal Labs R121 and a Shure SM57.
So you're doing close miking with the 57?
Yeah.
And were you doing farther back with the other mic?
So I try to sort of mimic what John Petrucci was doing on some of his recordings. So you get like the SM57 more like for the sharper edge of the sound, and then the R121 more, it has just a nice low end to it, and then I basically build a bit like a tent to just have no room or not much room on the sound. But I also yeah, but it's actually a combined guitar tone. I also used a plugin by Mercurial. It's an amp simulation software, because I actually one of my first Mesa Boogie amps was a Mesa Boogie Triaxis, and I found that they had this plug-in version of it, and I tried it out, and it sounds absolutely stellar. So on some of the songs, you can actually hear a combination of a plug-in guitar tone together with like the Mesa Boogie setup with the two mics. So you really have a very fluid approach, so to speak.
Well, it's great. You keeping all your options open and working with technology, which brings me to another question. The theme of the album is science and technology intertwined with human existence. Am I correct? Is that
absolutely?
Right? So, can you tell me what inspired you to come up with this concept?
So I. When starting out with the album, I wasn't entirely sure. So my biggest concern of if I could actually wrap this up was actually the lyric writing, because that was something I had like a ton of respect for, because it's so easy to sound corny or come up with rhymes that have been there like 1,000 times, and you only realize that when you listen to your own mix. But lyrically, I thought actually it's easier to have a concept for the entire record and then sort of work on each song very thoroughly, and so you can dive in a bit deeper into the material. And I recently read a couple of books from some written by some famous philosophers, and one of my favorite ones is actually Ervin Chargaff, scientist. Who passed away a couple of years ago, but who's also a great he criticizes how society actually employs and uses technology, and my feeling would be very interesting to write about something how humans are influenced, we as people are influenced by technology, but also how do we influence technology again? So it's more like an iterative, circular approach.
Exactly. It's whatever we do, things are invented, and then sometimes they're used in a little bit of a different way than is expected, and then technology changes to adapt to that again.
Yeah. And that's basically how the title came up. Yeah, absolutely. I think you just nailed it. That sort of refers actually also to the title of the album, Sonic Burst. So with the word sonic, which actually is intended to reflect the technology side of things, the science side of things. It's actually more about science. And then on the other hand, it's like, what's more natural than birth? It's that sort of probably resembles more the human and emotional part of this relationship between science, technology, and us as people. And it's interesting, actually. I just realized when we actually wrapped up the album that it's also somewhat reflective of the project itself, because sonic, you can also understand it as something like sound-like or sound-wise, and then of course it's the birth, it's the starting point of something of this project. And
yeah, I was just going to say that, because the album also ties in, that title ties in perfectly with the fact of this first album, and kind of everything coming together into a musical birth or creation. So that makes total sense. Is there any plans at all for Progressive Souls Collective to play live?
Oh wow, that's a really good question. I mean, the Corona pandemic has, for now, just shut down the live sector, and it'll be very, very interesting to see what's going to happen when it's safe again to go out on the road and play. As far as I am concerned, I'd be totally up for it, and I couldn't wait to do this. And I've talked to Achilles, for example, about this. He'd be totally up for it. The challenge would probably be after the pandemic and live playing is possible again. I think it'll be quite dense in the live sector, and like just when it comes to booking and touring, it'll be very dense. But we'll probably then see a lot of concerts and tours announced in a very short period of time. And
there's so many that have been delayed that were scheduled throughout the whole summer and already into fall that are now, like if you bought tickets, a lot of bands and venues are honoring those for next year. But that's, of course, if that venue is still in existence. Yeah. Because there's venues that was all they do, right? That was their business. And there's, without live music, it's kind of sad, but hopefully everything will come back, and that would be great.
Absolutely. I mean, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just so if we were to go out on tour at some point when it's safe to do that for the band and the crew and the fans, we'd have to. It could happen that we might just get like out of the 5 or 6 main musicians of the album, if we only manage to get like 4, and then we might have to have like some other guys filling in. I think that would be fine. I would see that actually more like a flexible lineup, a bit like a soccer team. I mean, sometimes you have to rotate, depending on which player is available. But as I'm concerned,
I think that works perfectly with collective. It's a collective. So
it's actually I mean, the name collective, actually, I first called this the Progressive Souls Project, but then at the end of the process, I just realized for myself, I thought it's just not right, because it's actually more than, of course, it's a project. It's not like a fixed lineup band, but at the same time, as a big thank you to everybody who was involved, just highlighting their collective effort, because the album wouldn't sound like the way it does without all the great input.
Absolutely. Another quick question. I know we're running out of time here. Do you have any thoughts about the music business and the digital world, and how do you feel about, obviously on the production side, it's awesome to be able to share things and do things across continents, through the internet, but as far as music going out in the marketplace and making money and that type of thing, what are your thoughts?
I think one could talk for hours about this, and because this is like my first professional release in the progressive rock genre, it's hard to comment on that. I think from a creating perspective, with the internet being an enabler to collaborate, like I think I've profited and benefited quite a lot from what the internet gives you options. On the other hand, when it comes to selling music, I think it's a dangerous development right now. I mean, I'm the type of person who would buy the next record of a band on vinyl, probably waiting for the next box set, buying it without listening, just because I know, like, for example, the next Dream Theater record, I just know I'm going to buy it, or Devin Townsend. But with the streaming, the streaming thing, I think it could be dangerous, because what you don't want is that the impression transpires that art is for free, because it's a lot of work to create an album. And I think that needs to be respected.
When people say, why buy it? I have Amazon, or I have Apple or Spotify. I can just listen to it. I don't even need to buy the record because I pay my monthly subscription. Well, I'm like you. I'm the kind of guy, when the new album comes out by Halloween or Dream Theater or that, I buy it, and I buy it on CD every time, because I want that trophy. I want that hard copy for the work that was done, and they earned it, and if not, then I'll buy the downloads and pay the money for each file. But somebody else spoke with me, and they mentioned how somebody got over 1 million streams and a check for $700.
Wow. Oh man, but that it's just so not right. It's so not right.
Yeah.
And it also comes down to like the haptic quality. I mean, do you own the music if you own a file? I mean, do you remember your first download? Probably not, but you will always remember the first vinyl record or the first CD or tape that you held in your hands. So it's also about how do you in your hands. Create a relationship to a piece of art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Excellent. Well, I just want to thank you again for joining us on Metal Express Radio Backstage, and I wish you the best success with Progressive Souls Collective. And did you have anything else you want to throw in?
Thanks for having me on the show. It's great with all the feedback that we're getting from around the world. It's like Christmas when you get like these lovely comments under like in the YouTube videos, when you read what people say, what the song reminds them of. I think it's great. So in that regard, I think the internet is absolutely awesome. And if it's an enabler to make you connect with someone, I think then it's a good thing. But thank you really for having me and all the nice feedback. And I think one just has to pass on also the compliments to everyone who was involved on this album, because it was a lot of fun making it.
Well, you're very welcome, and I'm sure everybody will be looking for the next project. This one's great, and more good things to come. So yeah, thanks again.
Thanks so much.